Hey everyone, welcome back. In today's lesson, we'll be exploring an essential operation in working with lists and tuples in Python. This technique allows you to extract specific portions of a list or tuple in a quick and easy way. So the technique I'm talking about is slicing. At the end of this video, we understand what list or tuple slicing is, how you can use slicing to extract elements from list or tuples, and we also understand advanced slicing techniques like skipping elements. For the purpose of this lesson, we'll be focusing on list slicing, but note that it is the same for tuple slicing. In fact, the slicing syntax and behavior are the same for tuples. So what is slicing? List slicing is a way of extracting part of a list by specifying a range of indices. Instead of looping through a list or accessing individual elements one at a time, you can extract multiple elements at once using slicing. So imagine you have a large list of items but only need a section of it. Slicing lets you extract that section in a single step. The basic syntax for slicing is you have list, which is the name of the list, and then you have your square brackets, you have the start, that is the index where you want to start the slice, and then you have the end, or you can say stop. So that is where you will stop the slicing. The start index is inclusive in your sliced result, but the end is not inclusive in your sliced result. So for example, let's comment this. So for example, let's say we have a list. Let's call it my list. So my list is a list of, let's say, 10, 20, this is to be 10. Okay, so we have 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. Okay, let's stop at 90. So if you want to extract part of this list now, let's say we want to extract 20, 30, and 40 out of this list. We can do that using this syntax. So what we do is you have the name of your list, which is my list in this case, and then you have the square bracket. So the start index, since we want to slice 20 to 40, so the index of 20 is 1, we have 0 and we have 1. So we have 1 and then we have colon. So where we want to stop the slicing, since we want to stop at 40, and you know that the stopping index is not inclusive. So if we use the index of 40, 40 will not be included in our result. So to include 40 in our result, we are going to use the index of 50. And the index of 50 is 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we are going to use 4. So if we print this now, let's put this in a print statement and see what we have in our console. So you can see now that 20, 30, and 40 has been extracted from the list. Even though we use the index of 4 as the endpoint, the item with the index of 4 is not included. Take note of that when you are dealing with slicing. And when you are working with slicing, if you omit the start or stop points, Python is going to use the default values. So for example, if you omit the start point, which is 1 in this case, if you don't put any value as the stop point, Python is going to use the default value, which is 0, the start of your list. So if you omit this now, Python is going to start from 0 and it's going to start at the index of 4. Let's run this and see what we have. So you can see that Python starts from the first item, the second, the third, the fourth, and it stops at the fifth item, which has the index of 4. If you omit the endpoint also, so let's say we provided the start point, let's use 2 in this case. So we want to start slicing from the third item, which has the index of 2. If you omit the stop point, so Python is going to start from the third item, which has the index of 2, and is going to extract it from the third item up to the end of the list. So if we run this now, you see we have 30, which has the index of 2, up to the end of the list. So just like accessing individual elements, you can also use negative indices with slicing to count from the end of the list. This is especially useful when you need the last few elements of a list without knowing how long the list is. So -1 is the last element, -2 is the second to the last, -3 is the third to the last, and it goes on and on like that. So for example, if you want to slice the last 2 elements of a list, what we are going to use negative index of 2, because the second to the last element is going to have the index of -2. So if you start from -2, which is going to be 80, and then up to the end of the list, if you run this now, so 80 and 90 is going to be copied. If you use -4, -4 is going to start from 60 and then up to the end of the list, because we are not specifying the end point. If you run this now, we're going to have 60, 70, 80, and 90. So let's assume that we want to slice from 60 to 80. So we want to slice from negative index of 4 up to negative index of 2. So what we're going to do is we're going to put -2 here as the end point. So if you run this, we're going to have 60 and 70, because the end point is not always included in your slicing results. The slicing syntax also allows you to add a step value, which tells Python how many elements to skip between each item in the slice. So for adding steps to your slicing, the syntax go with start, end, and then after the stop point, you are going to include the step value. By default, the step value is 1, which means every item within the range is going to be returned. But if you add a number other than 1 as the step, so for example, if you add 2 now, that means the slicing is going to start extracting from the start point, and then if you add 2, that means it's going to pick every second numbers after the start point. For example, let's say we want to slice from the second item, which is the index of 1. We want to slice it up to the end, so that means we are not going to use the second value, which is our end point. So we want to use the step of 2, which will be picking every second element after the start point, which is 20. If we run this now, so we are going to have 20, which is the starting point, and then we are running to the end of the list because we don't have a value here. So because we've specified 2, that means every second element after 20 will be picked. So we have 20, this one will be omitted, the next one is going to be 40, so we have 40 here. 50 is going to be omitted, the next one is going to be 60, so we have 60. 70 is going to be omitted, the next one is going to be 80, so we have 80. 90 will be omitted, and since that is the end of the list then, so the extracted output is going to stop at 80. If you use a step of 3, so that means after the starting point, every third element will be picked. So we have 20. If we run this, what do we have? So we have 20, 30 and 40 will be skipped, the third item will be picked, so we have 50. 60 and 70 will be skipped, so the next third item will be picked, which is 80. So we do have up to 3 other elements after 80, so that's going to be the end of our extraction. While we'll be focusing on lists, slicing also works with tuples. The same way it works with lists, the slicing syntax and behavior are the same for tuples. The key difference is just that tuples are immutable. You can extract items from tuples, but you cannot modify the content of tuples. So for example, let's say we have this as 2. You can copy this. That's not what I want to do. So let's copy this. Okay, so let's call this my tuple other than my list. And you know the syntax of tuple is inside of parentheses, so we are going to get rid of square brackets. Okay, so we can also extract items from list, but we cannot modify the content of. We can also extract items from tuples, but we cannot modify the content of tuples. So to extract, let's say we want to extract the last two or the last three elements. To do that, we are going to have my tuple, which is the name of our tuple, and then we use the square bracket. We want to extract the last 3 digits, the last 3 elements. So we can use -3 since we want to run to the end of the tuple, so we don't need to specify this. If we run this now, okay, let's print this into our console. We can put it in print function to print it. So let's comment this out. So we only have that in our console. Okay, so you can see that we have 70, 80, and 90, which is the last 3 elements of this tuple. If we want to, let's say we want to extract from the second item up to the end. So to extract from the second item, we are going to use the index of the second item, which is 1, and then it's going to extract up to the end of the. So we have 20, 30, 40, and all that. Now there's a method with which you can reverse the order of your list using slicing. And how do you do that? You use negative number as your step. So let's comment this out. Let's work with our list now. We have my list. If you want to reverse the order of this list now, let's say from the start to the end. So we are going to provide null as our starting point. So we are not going to provide anything. We are not going to provide anything as the end point. So it's going to run from start to end. And since we want to reverse the order of the list, we are going to use -1. So during the extraction, it's going to start picking in reverse order. It's going to start picking from the end. So we have 90, 80, 70, and all that. So if you run this now, you will see that our list is going to be reversed. So you have 90 as the first item, 80, 70. So this is a shortcut with which you can reverse the order of your list. But note that the original list is not modified. We are just making an extraction. So you can assign your extracted value to another variable. You can also do this with tuple. So you can, let's copy this, and we're just going to change this to my tuple. My tuple. Okay, so if we run, let's comment this out. Let's run this and see what we have. So you see that the order of the tuple is reversed in our extraction. Note that my tuple originally is not modified. We are just we are extracting this. So you can as well assign what we extracted into another variable. So you can say reversed tuple. So you can assign this to, copy this, then you can paste this. So let's print my tuple and reverse tuple. So you can see that my tuple originally is not reversed. So we have reversed tuple. Let's run this and see what we have. So this is the original tuple, which is not modified in itself, but the extracted output is this. So using -1 as the step in your slicing is going to reverse the order of the items in the tuple list. In this video, we've covered the basics of list slicing in Python. We also cover how to slice list by specifying the start, the end, and the step values, how negative indices work with slicing, and how slicing applies not just to list but also to tuples. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more Python tutorials, and as always, keep coding with Coding Atlas. See you in the next lesson.